Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Arizona Commission for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing special board meeting. Today's date is June 19th, 2025, and we will get started with a call to order at 4:34. Kyla, can you do a roll call for us, please?
Sure. Commissioner Bolmarsich?
Here.
Commissioner Goodstein?
Here.
Commissioner Herron?
Present here.
Commissioner Kidd?
Here.
Commissioner O'Rourke? I will come back to her. I think she might be having a problem with captions right now too. Commissioner Cinco is here. Commissioner Swenson?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yeah.
Commissioner Venkatesh?
Here.
All right, our AAG, Elise Phelan?
Here.
ACDHH staff, Nikki Sukup?
Hello, I'm here.
Carmen Smith?
Here.
Victoria Vaughn?
Here.
Sherry Berta?
Here.
And then myself, Kyla Dalton Nava. I'll go back to Commissioner O'Rourke. Are you still here with us? I see you're here in the Zoom, but I'm going to check and see if we can get, can somebody confirm if they're seeing captions on their end? Their captioner has been assigned, but I just want to make sure that everybody has access. You see? Okay.
Yes, I can't see the captions on my end.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm seeing a 2 or 3 second delay, but yeah, I can see them.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kyla. We will move on to the next agenda item, which is the chair's report and summary of events. And I don't have much to give as far as a report tonight, but I do want the commissioners to know that we have 5 interpreter complaints. And if you recall, Delynn Saunders was one of the complaints that we talked about at our last meeting, and we weren't able to give her the opportunity to give public comments from her side due to her submitting a public comment to us late. We wanted to recognize her and give her the opportunity to provide us with her public comments today. We will move on to the next agenda item, which is public comments. And Kyla, I will turn that over to you.
Sure. Would you like me to start with the written comment that we received first?
Sure. Yeah, please.
So our first comments come in from Alvina Malcolm, who is commenting on the complaint filed against her. I'm going to go ahead and read her comments. She says, "Thank you for reaching out regarding this matter. Thank you for reaching out regarding this matter. I'm greatly concerned about this misunderstanding. I have been a member in good standing of RID since 2005, and I have been nationally certified since 2007. I have worked in various settings and pride myself in outstanding interpreting services to each consumer with whom I work. Within the last 2.5 years, I began to work with the video remote interpreting section of Sorensen Communications, which provides on-demand interpreting virtually. As a requirement of this work, I applied and received licenses for various states with the understanding that to interpret for consumers in these respective states, I would need to have a state license. Arizona is one of those states. I applied and earned a license as a certified interpreter in Arizona in 2023. When my renewal came to be ready, I did not renew within the 60-day deadline. I applied for a renewal, but with a 46-day lapse in license. Although I do not have an answer from my supervisors, I've copied them on this communication to give them an opportunity to respond with more information. If any of my on-demand work was done virtually with a consumer in Arizona during those 46 days, I have reviewed those hours that I've worked for the company in the on-demand arena, and it was a total of 40 hours between April 15th and June 5th, 2024. Within those 40 hours, it is possible that I did not interpret any setting with a consumer out of Arizona. I ask for your forgiveness and grace in considering closing a case against me. This is due to an error in paperwork and timing. My work has remained excellent and my ethics have never been previously questioned. I am deeply sorry for my tardiness in renewing my license a year ago, and I'm hopeful the board will be understanding, and I'm hopeful that I can continue my work as a professional and nationally certified interpreter. Alvina D. Malcolm.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next one.
Before we move on to the next comments, I'm just realizing that we missed the statement that we usually make before public comments. Do you mind?
Yes, I am so sorry for missing that. RJ, would you read the statement, please?
So before, we need to set a time limit for public comments. A, a speaker is limited to 3 minutes on all topics. I'm so sorry, RJ. Can you? Pardon, the interpreter doesn't have the text. So the interpreter was saying, can you just start over? The interpreter does not have the text to look at, so I was off. Sorry. Does anyone else have the text? Dustin, can
I
you?
do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dustin, the interpreter apparently has the statement, so I think he is going to voice that on behalf of Wendy. So, and just everyone remember, it is the day before Friday, so appreciate everyone's patience. The board is responsible for establishing time limits for public participation unless modified by the board at a particular meeting. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes on all topics. Personal attacks on board members, staff, or other persons in attendance or absent are discouraged. Individuals are cautioned that statements concerning others that could be considered slanderous may subject the speaker to civil action. Those who violate this rule can be barred from future appearances before the board. This applies to both public hearings and board meetings. Your cooperation is appreciated. Mrs. Board Chair Cienko, thank you so much for reading the blurb, RJ, and thank you, Kyla, for reminding me that we needed to read it. Now we can move on to the next public comment.
Okay, so the next public comment will be a live comment from Dylan Saunders, who will be commenting on the complaint against her. I'm going to go ahead and ask her to start her video.
Great. Dylan, we are ready to hear your comments when you get your camera on. If I recall, it looked like she was in her car. Perhaps she's driving right now. I hope she's found a safe place to pull over. Oh, great. All right, Delyn, you all good?
Hello, this is Dylan. I'm so sorry. Really wanted to make sure I could join the meeting. I know I have 3 minutes. Is that correct?
Delyn, what you'll do is you just share your side of the story through public comments. We do limit public comments to 3 minutes.
Okay, yes.
And
I want to make sure that you all did receive my letter as well with the entire explanation there. And I want to make sure that you've all been able to read it.
Sorry, this is Harvey. Sorry for interrupting. Those 3 minutes is not fair to the deaf commenters. Hearing people can speak quickly and fill that time more quickly. So in my opinion, deaf commenters should get more of the time. And I do think that we as the board need to look at that. This is a very short time frame to make it equitable for signing people who are signing. So I am very concerned about that 3 minute time limit and what that imposes on deaf speakers versus hearing speakers. It is not right in my strong belief. Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner Goodstein. However, we did read that full comment, the public comment blurb. Now, remember, we have 5 complaints that we need to get through this evening. And so it's important to be mindful of everyone's time and important that we stick with the agenda. Delyn, why don't you go ahead with your public comment? Tell us your experience the best you can. You
Okay,
ready?
yes, I'm ready. Thank you. Um, Thank you to Ashley, who took the time to really explain the law to me and the new law that was passed in 2016. I was not aware of that addition until December 27th. I received an email from Ashley, and that was 9 years after the fact, 9 years later, that I learned about this new addition. And I do understand that I have a 20-hour requirement for legal interpreting to practice as a legal interpreter. And I saw that on the FAQ. I've talked with other interpreters as well, but it was not anything that was on my form every time I would renew the application itself. There was nothing stated there about the 20 hours. And honestly, I really did not have any idea until the 27th. And I only had 4 days left to do 20 hours of training. And I was in shock. I was thrown off and I was very upset. Of course, I love my job. I love interpreting. It's honestly my joy. Interpreting has taught me about hearing culture, honestly. I've been interpreting for 27 years. And I'm just really disappointed. And I do deserve to get my renewal, I believe. I have explained that in the letter. I hope the commissioners do read that and understand that. I understand that Victoria Vaughn did warn me that this law really has nothing, really honestly, it's just every time you reapply, it is still there. And then there's a possibility of 50 hours of training. And I'm not really, I feel kind of shocked with that type of disciplinary action. And if I don't get this taken care of, July 4th would be the last day that I would be able to interpret. So it is a high impact, not only for me, but deaf consumers. All of the appointments that I might have in the court situation then would have to be canceled. And it's really a bad time for the Tucson deaf community. So, of course, I trust and respect your decision, whatever it may be. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your public comments, Delyn. Thank you for being here. Are you able to see me?
Do I need to turn my camera off?
I was just saying thank you for your public comments this evening. Now you can turn your camera off. and drive safe. Thanks. Bye, Dylan.
Thank you. So I'll turn my camera off now. Okay, thank you.
Yes, please. We'll give them one more minute. Dylan? Okay. Next comment, please, Kyla. Was it just those two?
No, there should be one from Hannah Hatcher, who I'm going to call on here shortly.
Okay.
Ask her to start her video.
Hello. We are ready whenever you are, Hannah.
All right. Hello, my name is Hannah Hatcher, and I wanted to expand a little bit on my background. I am from Texas. I moved here 2 years ago, and I graduated my ITP in 2021. So I'm a relatively new interpreter. I was working at the job where the two complaints happened, and everything was going along great. I was having health issues, so I had to quit the job kind of abruptly. I did set up an interpreter for the rest of the week, which was not necessary. I did it out of the kindness of my heart, and knowing the situation that I was leaving. So after I quit and I got the complaint, I was really very shocked that I didn't know there was any issues before. Um, when I was working with the two individuals that filed the complaint against me, I was always asking for feedback on how I could improve or how I can be a better match for them. And the feedback was always positive. So when they said that I was offering advice, I couldn't think of anything that I could possibly have offered advice on, nor did their complaints specify what advice I gave. Because honestly, with their jobs, I am clueless of what I could offer. Um, I feel like these complaints came from a more personal revenge rather than a professional behavior because Texas is very, very strict with the CPC. I feel that I follow this CPC. As a new graduate, the CPC is very fresh in my mind, and I understand professional boundaries. And it is really not in my personality to offer advice or any of the things that were alleged against me. So I am sorry for the two people that filed a complaint against me that they may be mad at me, but I don't think that this is fair and I don't think that this is right. And it is not a reflection of my professional behavior as an interpreter. I'm always learning, I'm always trying to improve. So I don't know, I guess just keep that in mind when you're reviewing my case. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, Kyla, is that our last public comment?
That is, yeah, I think that I don't see the last person that we had on the schedule, which Marie. Actually, you know what? Let me present her comments because she did send them in by written. So I'll just present the comments on her behalf.
Okay.
Just to make sure, does the interpreter have that pulled up, the Marie's comments?
I do not, but you can go ahead and read them. It's not
Okay.
like that kind of language, so it's fine.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, Commission Chair Cinco, commissioners, and commission staff. I would like to address the complaint filed against me regarding a legal interpreting assignment. While interpreting in the courts, interpreters must follow the court's code of professional conduct as well as RID, NAD's code of professional conduct. In a court proceeding, it is imperative that the interpreter be perceived as impartial. The interpreter works for the court. I have interpreted in court since the early 1990s. I understand the strict protocol I must follow to ensure access to the court proceedings by deaf persons. When I arrive at a court assignment, I identify myself to the clerk, show them my ACDHH badge, and then ask if the defendant has checked in or is in custody. If they are present, I then introduce myself, let them know where I will be interpreting, where I will sit, and let them know when their case is called. If it's the first time I'm interpreting for someone, I will explain that I am not allowed to chat. The interpreter cannot appear to be biased. To avoid any appearance of impartiality, I sit where the spoken language interpreters sit, or near the attorneys waiting to have their cases called. It would be inappropriate for me to sit in the galley area. However, I do watch to see if the deaf person needs to talk with their attorney or has questions for the clerk prior to their case being called. Thank you for allowing me to speak. If you have any specific questions about the circumstances of the complaint, I am happy to answer them.
Thank you, Kyla. Okay. I'm sorry, whoever was just speaking, it looked like you were on mute.
Oh, before we proceed, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So I think there was some not communication, technological issues because I should be for a public comment, but there's nothing there. So am I allowed to give that live, which was the plan?
Huh. We do have a deadline by which public comments need to be submitted, but we're going to go to our interim executive director, Nikki Sukup, for an answer on that.
And to clarify, it wasn't about
getting
it submitted, it was about not going through.
This is interim director Sukup. I was planning to say that if you wanted to make a public comment live at any board meeting, you are required to fill out the blue card and submit the public comment request. You were mentioning that you had some technical difficulties and you weren't able to submit that card. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Well, not just that, I never got the option in my email to submit a comment, which is why I was confused. So I followed everything to the best of my ability to be able to speak, and I'm just asking for 3 minutes like everyone else.
Okay, I would like to get a little bit more information. Is your public comment about an agenda item, something specifically on tonight's agenda?
Yes, I had a complaint filed against me, and I just wanted to be able to respond briefly for the board.
The standard protocol is that the blue card does need to be submitted. If you had any technical issues, did you communicate those technical issues with staff?
So the only staff email who I do have, Victoria Vaughn, we have been in correspondence, but has not responded to emails in the past, even not getting the link for today. So that's why I'm saying I do feel like I should be able to have 3 minutes to respond to a complaint. Because if like part of the complaint and part of the process was not getting responses from Victoria to begin with. So if I'm not receiving information, I do feel allowed that I should be able to defend myself on the complaint filed against me.
This is Nikki. I will leave that to our board chair, Katie Cienko. And this is board chair Cienko. Casey, let me ask you a question. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the situation correctly. So you were saying that you had some technical challenges on your end. Were you able to notify Victoria that you were unable to submit the public comment card? Were you able to tell her of the technical difficulty you were having?
No, because in the past before this, I've tried being in communication with Victoria, but have not received correspondences or emails back. And so all I'm asking is for the ability to defend
Okay.
myself for 3 minutes like everyone else does.
Okay, Casey, I'm really sorry. We do have to follow the standard protocol. If your public comment wasn't submitted, we can't allow you to provide us with a public comment. I see Commissioner Bolmarsich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Bomarsich. At our last interpreter complaints meeting, we had a comment from someone who had submitted too late. Could I and we allowed them to speak today, and we deferred hearing their complaint last time. So could I suggest that Mr. Casperson, I'm sorry if I'm getting your name wrong, could I suggest that Mr. Casperson's complaint hearing be deferred to the next meeting so that he has time to submit the public complaint? Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that you mentioned that, Commissioner Bolmarsich, because I was sitting here thinking about when we get to that point in the agenda to go over interpreter complaints, we could have a commissioner make a motion to table that item and have Casey's complaint on the next board meeting agenda where we will be addressing complaints. So as of right now, we're gonna move forward and have our discussion about interpreter complaints. So I will open the floor for discussion. I do want to start with the complaint against Casey Casperson. And I'm asking the board to consider tabling this agenda item and putting it on our next agenda for the next board meeting. I see Commissioner Herron.
Yes, hello, commissioners. Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Herron, and I move to, how should I say this?
You say table?
Oh, retable, thank you. I would like to table this complaint regarding Casey Casperson to our next interpreter complaint session.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Herron. We have a motion on the floor to table this agenda item, this complaint against Casey Casperson. We have a second from Commissioner Kidd. It appears as if most commissioners are in favor.
I have a
Commissioner
question.
Goodstein? Please, Commissioner Goodstein.
Yes. Are you speaking to me? Okay, great.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, I feel that we need to have a motion because the last time there was a person, we were told that one person didn't submit their request for comment on time, and then immediately it was postponed to the next session. So I'm not sure why we're acting differently in this session.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodstein. If you recall, the situation at the last meeting was a bit different because we did have a public comment, but it was submitted late. And in this situation, Mr. Casperson was experiencing some technical difficulties and did not tell ACDHH staff of those technical difficulties on his end. That was not communicated. So it's a different situation than the previous complaint where someone did submit a public comment. However, it was just submitted late. Whereas Mr. Casperson hadn't submitted a public comment and hadn't told staff of technical difficulties. But Commissioner Bolmarsich was suggesting that we do something similar for Mr. Casperson so he can have the opportunity to share information from his end. Okay, yes, Commissioner Herron.
I just want to follow up with Commissioner Goodstein. He made a point. At the last time, we should have made that motion to table it, the late comments. However, we should have also learned from experience. Some of us are still new to this. So, lesson learned. So that means the next time, as we look at the list of comments, we should make it appropriate which ones we have completed, which ones are still yet to be heard.
That is great feedback. Thank you. Okay, so we still have a motion on the floor to table the complaint against Mr. Casperson. And the motion is to put that on the next agenda for discussion. It appears as if most commissioners are in agreement. Do we have anyone who is in opposition or abstains from the motion? Seeing and hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Casperson. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Victoria and we will make sure that we follow up with you. Thank you. Moving on, I would like to now discuss the case against DeLynn Saunders, or the complaint against DeLynn Saunders. I would like to open the floor for discussion. Commissioner Goodstein.
Okay. So from DeLynn's recent comments, I do understand that the licensure requirement was 20 hours, and that was new. She's been an interpreter for many years. Yet she received her license from ACDHH in 2021. And prior to that, did she have the 20-hour requirement? How was that possible for her to receive that licensure without the 20 hours? I'm wondering, or has ACDHH come up with a system where they have automated information being sent out to every interpreter, giving them an update, letting them know that they have these 20 hours that are required and they're coming due for licensure and things like that. I'm wondering if that's something we do on an annual basis, just to make sure that interpreters are aware and that they're following the law. It does seem that this is just unintentional, not intending to break the law. It was not neglect in this case, so I feel that we should be more lenient with this, with DeLynn, and allow her to continue.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodstein. That is great food for thought. I would like to have Victoria come on and share details from the case. I remember she had shared a summary with us, and I think it would be a good idea to hear what Victoria has to say, and then we can discuss further. And Victoria, thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Good evening. So I just want to make sure my audio interpreters, are we good? Okay. So if you don't mind, I'm going to start with the summary of the complaint, and that may answer some of the questions that were posed just now. And if not, I can fill in the blanks there. So Delynn Saunders has held an Arizona Legal D license since July 17th, 2008. It wasn't until her 2025 renewal, during her 2025 renewal, the commission requested documentation of 20 hours of legal themed continuing education workshops, which Ms. Saunders confirmed that she had not completed within the past 4 years. She stated that she was unaware of this requirement for maintaining her legal D license and had not previously been asked for this information. So her current renewal is pending until July 4th, 2025 to allow her time to complete the necessary legal workshops for reapplying as an initial applicant, because the rules right now indicate because the requirements for legal D were not met to renew, we cannot renew. We have to do a initial application. And this requirement, again, is not a yearly requirement. So to renew yearly, this is not a requirement. This requirement is only required to be completed within the certifying body's CEU cycle. So typically that's 4 years. Every 4 years, RID requires interpreters to prove that they've taken 80 hours of workshop training. And so within that 80 hours, ACDHH requires 20 of it to be legal based when you're in a legal C or legal D category. And so because of this particular situation, ACDHH has committed going forward, we're going to do 2 notifications to all of our legal C and legal D applicants to remind them of this criteria to renew, because again, it is something that's in addition to what their certifying body requires. So it's something that can easily be overlooked or forgotten, because it is that additional requirement that their certifying body requires. And we're also going to we're in the works of creating a graphic to make it easier for everyone to understand. It's of the 80 that you already are required to get from your certifying body, we want 20 of that 80 to be legal. So we're not asking for an additional 20, but just of the 80 that you require, for 20 of it to be legal based. And also, according to the rules, what we are tasked with right now is,
Sorry, I thought you were done with your comments. Sorry. There was a bit of a delay on my end. I apologize.
So according to the rules, what we're dealing with right now, because again, the criteria to renew has not been met. So that part is, according to the rules, off of the table. We can do an initial application for Delynn, but that initial application requirement will be 50 hours that she will need to apply anew. Right now, the rules just require us to bring this matter to the board under Article 3 proceedings, which are a complaint process. And so what we need to consider now is, do we just want to dismiss this complaint because of the circumstances, or is there some type of penalty that the board wants to impose? But right now, again, reinstating or renewing her license, we cannot do, because the rules for renewing in her category have not been met. But we can do an initial application once she submits the initial application with the 50 hours, and then the other criteria of the payment and photos.
Great. Thank you, Victoria. I saw a hand from Commissioner Bolmarsich, and then your hand went down. Did you have something to say? No, you're good? Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Goodstein.
I do understand the law. A little bit off point, I do want to say, I moved from Maryland. And
Are you
as
making a
far
comment on an
as,
agenda item?
you know, I would have a driver's license for 5 years. And I may not know that my driver's license was about to expire. So what happened to me actually, I couldn't get into like a flight because TSA said my license had expired. So I had to go to the MVA and get a new license. And they required me to start everything over from scratch. I had to take a driver's test again. I had to, you know, take the courses.
They
I had
did
to
not.
take the eye test and all of that. So, you know, it's the same principle here. I don't feel that it's right. They did not actually require all of that. So if you're driving with an expired license, you could be put in jail. You could be fined all of these amounts of money. But the same with the situation with Delynn, whether it be she forgot or whatever the circumstances were as far as the 20 hours, were they notified that they had this D license and they needed those 20 hours? So I do feel that we need to basically forgive this instance. And I think it was a first time instance. So I think we should allow the license to continue as renewed. And that is my comment regarding this. I do want to encourage ACDHH to set up an automated system so that there's multiple interpreters. We want to make sure that everyone is able to continue and keep their license.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodstein. I would like to add on to your thoughts. And this is how I view the situation. With our licensure system and the certification system, you know, we as individuals are responsible for maintaining our certifications and our license regardless of the field that you work in. Here in the state of Arizona, state employees have to renew their level 1 fingerprint clearance card every 7 years. And we are responsible for maintaining that fingerprint clearance card. HR is not responsible for letting us know. And so in some situations, we might not get word until things have expired. And things are inscribed in law, and the same thing goes for social workers. Same thing goes for licensed counselors in the state. And it also applies to people who maintain their human resources certifications. They're responsible for ensuring that their certifications are in good standing. So yes, I understand that everyone is human. We are all human beings. And sometimes these things get overlooked and life happens. And it's important to remember that anyone who holds a license or a certification, they're responsible for understanding the policies and procedures in place put on by the organization providing that certification or license. And now I see we have hands from Commissioner Bolmarsich, and then we'll go to Commissioner Swenson, and we'll start with Commissioner Bolmarsich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Bolmarsich. As I understand Victoria's comments and summary, we have nothing to do with with DeLynn Saunders having to redo training, application, and qualification. All we're deciding is whether we will simply dismiss the complaint or whether we might require a few hours of workshop training in addition to the required hours for application. That's correct, Victoria? Is that right?
That is
Okay,
correct.
so that's all we're considering. We cannot waive anything else. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolmarsich. We'll go to Commissioner Swenson.
This is Commissioner Swenson. I just had a question, Victoria. When they initially apply for the very first time for the that license, is that also a requirement, the 50 hours prior to getting the license, or is the first time they get the license and then they have to have the hours?
That's a good question. So to qualify for a legal D, you do need the 50 hours of legal workshops to qualify to get it. And then to maintain it is that 20 hours every 4 years or every CEU cycle.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
I would move that we dismiss this case, just that it seems that it was oversight.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to dismiss the complaint as oversight, and we have a second from Commissioner Thompson. And also, I would like to recognize Commissioner Herron seconded it at the same time. It looks like a lot of commissioners are in favor of dismissing the case. I do want to check in to see if anyone is opposed or would like to abstain from voting on the motion. Commissioner
I have a
Bolmarsich?
yes, thank you. This is Commissioner Bolmarsich. This is a question for Victoria before I vote on this. What are the list of penalties? So a letter of concern or reprimand, do those just go into the file and carry nothing punitive?
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to abstain.
Okay. Thank you so much, Commissioner Bolmarsich. I would like to recognize that the majority of commissioners have voted to dismiss this complaint, with one commissioner, Commissioner Bolmarsich, abstaining. Thank you. And we will move on to the complaint against Hannah Hatcher. Victoria, is there anything that you would like to share about this case?
Sure. Yes. Excuse me.
Thanks.
So there are two complaints against Hannah Hatcher that are before us this evening. The first was filed by Kayla Raquel. And I'll give you a brief summary here. Between October 2023 and March 2024, Hannah Hatcher served as a staff interpreter at the Arizona Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. During this period, multiple allegations, notably from Kayla Raquel and from another staff member, which we'll see on the other complaint, suggest that Ms. Hatcher's performance was inconsistent with the standards of professional conduct and consumer respect expected of an ASL interpreter. These allegations range from not interpreting effectively to interjecting her opinion during meetings where she was the interpreter. Certain incidents that were reported did predate the 90-day reporting timeframe that we do have for complaints, but the underlying concerns regarding boundary transgressions and unprofessional interactions are evident across all the allegations. Again, this matter is one of two cases against Ms. Hatcher. We will consider them separately, but the behaviors show a pattern that are in both complaints. Based on, Based on the information obtained between the complainant and Hannah Hatcher, it's evident that Hannah wasn't a good suit for ACBVI. Kayla is a frequent user of ASL interpreters and is well acquainted with the professional standards that are outlined in the CPC. Hannah is a newly certified interpreter and licensed interpreter, and she acknowledges that there were some difficulties adjusting to the content during the certain sessions. Just because Hannah's a newer interpreter doesn't make her statements any of less value, but the allegations here, based on the allegations and the answers received from Hannah, the investigator is moving towards requiring 5 hours of ethics training, 5 clock hours to be completed within 60 days to brush up on some ethical training and ethical decision making. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you, Victoria. I will now open the floor for discussion. Are there any commissioners who have questions? Commissioner Herron?
So I don't have any discussion, but I would like to make a motion to accept Victoria's suggestion that the civil penalty of 5 hours of workshop time, I think that that is appropriate for a new interpreter. I've worked with a lot of new interpreters. They're nervous. It's a hard job, but we do want to give them an opportunity to take that training and just to get some more support. So that's my motion, to have Hannah Hacker go through 5 hours, the civil penalty of 5 hours of workshop time.
Thank you, Commissioner Herron. We have a motion to follow the recommendation of the civil penalty of 5 hours of workshop time. I'm wondering, Commissioner Bolmarsich, do you agree with the motion? Do you have an additional comment?
I have a number of questions for Victoria, and I don't agree with the motion.
Okay.
So may I go ahead and ask Victoria? Or do we need to vote?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and ask Victoria?
Okay,
We do have a motion on the table. Let me ask Commissioner Herron parliamentary procedure here.
So there has been no second, so we can go ahead and move forward with discussion.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Bolmarsich.
Okay, so Victoria, my first question is, are these separate workshops or is one 5-hour workshop going to cover both incidents?
Both, you mean both complaints? No, so my recommendation is for 5 hours for this one, and I believe I did 5 hours for the next one, so it'll be 2 different, so a total of 10 hours, essentially, if that's the recommendation that's accepted.
Okay, are we just on the first complaint now, or are we considering both together?
Just the first one, just on the one for Kayla Raquel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, Madam Chair, I really feel like both should be considered together because, as Victoria noted, this is a pattern of behavior. I don't know if it's possible to move for that or whether we're required to consider them separately, but that is my feeling. Maybe the AG can help.
I have to admit, this is a tough one. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Elise, can you help us out here?
Sure. So these are separate complaints, and each individual complainant has the right to have their complaint heard individually. And this is not, I don't want to go too far into the kind of legal advice that would require executive session or anything, but I believe that these should be considered separately so that each individual can be heard individually and have their case considered individually, and so that also Ms. Hatcher can receive the best and most appropriate feedback, because it's a pattern, but they're not identical just by nature of being from different people. So I think it would be at this stage not necessarily quite in line with how the complaints work to consider them together. Of course, you can consider them, the fact of them both existing, in your consideration, but for, for anything else and just the way these work, I would advise considering them separately.
We're going to have our interpreters switch. Okay, great. Elise, that's what I was thinking as well, because the second complaint is technically a different complaint. The pattern is similar, but it is a different complaint. And it's important to remember that there are two sides to every story, and there's two sides to each complaint that we have against this interpreter. So it's important that we do consider them separately. So I will go to Commissioner Swenson.
This is Commissioner Swenson. I did have a question, and I'm not sure if you know this, Victoria, or not, but did the interpreter have any opportunities within their first 90 days of employment to sit with a supervisor and get any kind of feedback, or did they work with other interpreters as a team in which they could receive feedback? It just seems that there's two completely different stories on each side. So I was just wondering kind of how that worked, if you know.
I don't know that. No, so the answer to your question is no. I do know that there was a mediation meeting, and that'll be in the next complaint. So there were times, or a time that I'm aware of, where the complainant and Hannah Hatcher and the supervisor sat down to mediate the interactions and the problem and to address the problems. So that is the only meeting that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any additional questions or comments before we move forward with a vote?
Has the motion been seconded?
There has been no second because Commissioner Bolmarsich had some questions for clarification. But I do see Commissioner Bolmarsich has her hand up.
Yes, I'm happy to proceed to a vote, but I'd like to offer an amendment to Commissioner Herron's motion that instead of 5 workshop hours, I would like to see it 8, because I see enough of concern here that I think more ethics exposure would be better.
Thank you. Commissioner Herron, do you agree with the amendment?
Okay. I understand what Commissioner Bolmarsich is trying to accomplish. I think that we need to treat them as individual complaints. I do understand. However, I want to keep with the first complaint and continue with the motion as moved, and then figure out what to do with the second complaint separately to make it fair, because they are part of the same pattern. So first of all, I think we should treat it as the original complaint and then also focus on the pattern that is evident and do something about the pattern. So that is my suggestion to reconsider in that amendment to make it Commissioner Bomarsich, if you want to chime back in.
Yeah, Commissioner Bomarsich.
I propose the amendment. If no one's going to second it, then we can consider Commissioner Herron's motion. I would say it is not proper procedure for the original mover to accept the amendment. We vote on the amendment and then that alters the original motion. But I am happy to withdraw the amendment.
Okay, so we don't have a second to the motion, so really the amendment is not valid anyway. So if someone would like to second my motion, it's still standing, I guess.
Do we have a second? Poor thing.
Maybe I
You're
need to
all on
make
your
dance
own
better.
here. You're just looking for
Ed is
someone to
seconding.
second your motion.
Goodstein is seconding.
Commissioner Goodstein. Okay, we got a second from Commissioner Goodstein.
All right. So this is Commissioner Herron. So Commissioner Bomarsich, do you still want to make an amendment to this motion that is this main motion that is now on the table on the floor? Pardon?
No, I mean, I am basing my comments just on the first case, but no, I don't wish to, I withdrew the amendment.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Herron. We now have a second. And it looks like a lot of commissioners are in favor. I do want to ask, though, is anyone in opposition to the motion? Commissioner Thompson? Are you in opposition?
No, I abstain.
You abstain. Okay, thank you. And
am
I
actually
would like to have the minutes reflect that Commissioner Thompson abstains. Commissioner Bomarsich?
I am a nay. No.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Bomarsich. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Bomarsich is a nay. And it looks like our motion carries, barring any other opposition or people abstaining. All right, thank you. Motion carries. Now let's move on to the second complaint against the same interpreter.
Okay. This complaint was filed by Danielle Gutierrez against Hannah Hatcher. Danielle is a employee of ACBVI as well. Sorry, let me get my bearings here. Okay, so between October 2023 to March 2024, Hannah Hatcher served as the staff interpreter at ACBVI. During this period, multiple allegations from Danielle Gutierrez suggested that Ms. Hatcher's performance was inconsistent with the standards of professional conduct and consumer respect expected of an ASL interpreter. These allegations range from interjecting her opinion during meetings where she was an interpreter to oppression of her consumer by not facilitating effective communication. The underlying concerns regarding boundary transgressions and unprofessional interactions are evident across all of the allegations. And again, this is the second complaint displaying a recurring pattern of behaviors perceived by staff as unprofessional and detrimental to their work environment. Let's move on to the recommendation. So in this complaint, some of the allegations relate to employment issues rather than ethics. However, based on the ethics-based information provided, I'm having a technical issue. Hold on, I'm sorry. Based on the ethics-based information provided by the complainant, the investigator recommends a mandatory continuing education workshops specifically on ethics in the amount of 5 clock hours to be completed within 60 days. Danielle detailed recounting every interaction that was negative with Hannah Hatcher and how attempts to communicate her feelings about the way Hannah was interpreting her ethical choices. Again, there was a mediation that was attempted. Shortly after that, Danielle had to reach out to Hannah to emphasize the agreed upon terms of that mediation that she felt were not adhered to. And then one point to think about is that the complaints were submitted after Hannah was no longer employed, where Danielle wouldn't have to interact or have to deal with the allegations of unethical behavior by Hannah Hatcher, but she still took the time to detail and recount all of the interactions that she felt were unethical and that did not abide by the CPC in an effort to protect the community members from these alleged unethical behaviors. So with that, again, the recommendation is 5 hours of workshops with the topic of ethics to be completed within 60 days. This is a recommendation. So again, the board does not have to take my recommendation. You do have the free rein to implement the other options that are listed on the last page of the report. Again, mine is just a recommendation. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Victoria. I will open the floor for discussion, and I see Commissioner Bolmarsich first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On top of the previous complaint, even though we are considering them separately, I find this continued pattern of behavior disturbing. I also the reported comments about hard of hearing and how that doesn't seem to equate to using an interpreter also disturb me. So, I mean, I'm not making a motion yet, but my recommendation is an additional 5 hours of training and a letter of concern in this interpreter's file, because as we've seen, it is a pattern. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolmarsich. Commissioner Kidd.
So I have 2 questions. The first one is for Victoria. I noticed in the complaint, the responses from Hannah, and the first one rather has responses from Hannah, but the second one does not. So did she not respond to the second one, or are we missing responses in there, or is there any reason why they're not a response to the second complaint?
Oh, no. Yeah, there's responses. Let me look to see. Yeah, so her Hannah's responses start on page 10 in the full report. Those are all Hannah's responses.
I see. Okay. The first one had a lengthy back and forth, and the second one seemed to be hidden, I guess. All right, so for the second one, actually for the first one, sorry, for the second one, there was a lot of detailed responses. It talked, and so there was a recommendation of 5 hours, and I'm curious from your perspective where that 5 hour recommendation comes
That's a good question. So doing research on the availability of workshops in with the theme of ethics, I saw many were 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So I figured a round number of 5 would at least require 4 workshops to get to that number of 5. And I figured that that was a reasonable amount to request based upon the allegations. But again, that's just my recommendation. You guys have the free will to increase, decrease, or change it to something else. But that's why I made that recommendation.
Okay. And then an additional question. Hang on. So the 60 days, 5 hours in 60 days is the time frame that's been recommended?
Yes.
Okay. Can we change the time frame?
Yes.
So those were my questions for now. I'm going to hold my thoughts until the next commissioner has a turn.
Thank you, Commissioner Kidd. We will now move to Commissioner Goodstein.
As others have mentioned, I am concerned with the pattern of behavior. It seems like there may be something more serious going on. I am new to the board, so perhaps the commission has dealt with something similar in the past. I'm not sure. A repeated pattern of behavior, repeat offenders, people who are on their 3rd complaint on the same topic, and who are getting their licenses renewed with repeated training, or what is it? Maybe someone with more experience with this process can tell me, what are we doing to keep this from happening a 3rd time?
Would you like to respond, Victoria? Would you like to respond to Commissioner Goodstein's question?
Sure. So again, that's up to the board. In the past, what we've done is when there's a pattern that was seen, that the next instance that made it a pattern, the punishment was more severe. And so in the disciplinary guidelines that are in the commissioner portal, there's a few examples in there to show what was done. So if it's the first time, maybe increase if it was a fee, a civil money penalty fee. If it was $10 the first time, okay, and the second and third time, maybe $20, $25 if it was a fee. Increasing in severity is what typically has been done historically for something that has been shown to be a pattern for an interpreter, is the short answer.
Thank you, Victoria. If there are no further questions or concerns, I will entertain a motion. I would like to recognize Commissioner Herron.
Yes, I do have a question for Victoria.
Sure.
So Hannah Hatcher is still a fairly new interpreter in this field, and she is a licensee. Is that correct?
No, she's not a licensee. Sorry. She's a generalist.
Oh, general license. So she's still fairly new and recently graduated from an interpreter program. How long ago was that, her graduation date? I was trying to find that information, but
I think Victoria has it.
I believe 2021 is when she was certified. So I don't know when she graduated from her ITP. Give me 2 seconds here. I can confirm.
It's all right. The fact that she's certified in 2021 is enough. So there was also COVID during that time, which threw everything off. So we have to consider that. So all in total, I'd say she's had a good 2 to 3 years of exposure to the interpreting experience. So I was just wondering if she was working in other instances as an interpreter. Was she open to receiving feedback? I think that's valuable. If she was amenable to that and willing to increase her skills by the feedback received. Is there any information on that?
Victoria, do you happen to know?
I don't know. Outside of ACBBI, I don't know what her interpreting experiences are. From what I understand, feedback was given, for example, in that mediation session at ACBBI. But after that, it appears that the same behaviors were there. But I don't know if other interpreters have given feedback to her or what other feedback opportunities there were. I don't have that information.
Okay, I have some ideas for making a motion, but I'll allow some other discussion before I make my own motion.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Herron. Appreciate you. Commissioner Swenson, do you have questions?
Yes, thank you. My question, Victoria, is sometimes I feel like as an interpreter, it's really helpful to team with somebody or to have a mentor to get some feedback, because we kind of lose sense of either what we're doing or what we're conveying or our habits because we aren't seeing that, we aren't getting a reflection of that. Is there ever a time once an interpreter becomes fully licensed that might be something, mentorship might be something that would be assigned to the interpreter to help with getting some of that feedback? I think it's valuable to all of us. And maybe I just don't know if there's precedence for that.
I love that idea. That's come up before, and the challenge we've had is the enforcement of that, right? We can say you must be teamed for X amount of days and get feedback, but how do we, as a licensing body, enforce that part of it? So I love the idea. Would have to just fine tune what way to be able to enforce that. But currently we don't have anything in place for those who are already certified under those guidelines.
Thank you, Victoria. Any additional questions or food for thought? Commissioner Kidd.
Yeah, so I keep going back to Victoria's statement regarding insufficient CEUs being available in ethics. So I understand that, and we need to recognize that. We need to possibly educate instead of penalize. And there's not enough hours out there. Do we consider that there may be, from the prior complaint, 5 hours as well? So that's 10 hours. Let's see. As far as the discussion about how many hours go, do we leave the first motion was 5 hours in 60 days. Do we add 5 hours more for 120 days, making it a total of 10 within 120 days? Is that good enough? I'm not sure, considering the availability of what is available, and then also with the pattern that has been set in place.
Thank you, Commissioner Kidd. It looks like Victoria has a comment.
I apologize. So I want to be clear. It's not a lack of workshops that are related to ethics. There are tons of workshops out there. I wanted to expose the interpreter to multiple teachers in multiple classes about ethics. So I saw that there were 30 minutes or 45 minutes. I didn't want there to be one class out there that was 5 hours long and boom, you satisfied the requirement. I wanted the exposure and the varying options. There are many out there, so getting 10 will not be a problem. Yeah. So sorry to clarify that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So I was under the impression that there weren't enough available. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. You can move on to other commissioners' questions.
Commissioner Bolmarsich?
I actually want to make a motion. I know a lot of us have a hard stop at 6, so I move that in the second complaint against Ms. Hatcher, that we add an additional 5 hours of workshop training. It can be completed within 120 days, as Commissioner Kidd suggested, and also write a letter of concern to be placed in the interpreter's file. That's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? We have a second, Commissioner
I do
Kidd?
have a quick question. Let's see here. Let me pull that back up. So a letter of reprimand or a letter of concern? Those are our two
Concern.
options.
Concern. I assume concern is lower than reprimand.
Okay, I would like
Is
to second that motion. I second that.
All right, we have a second on the motion. Anyone in opposition to the motion? Commissioner Thompson, are you in opposition?
I abstain.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that there seems to be no one in opposition and Commissioner Thompson is abstaining from voting. Motion carries. All right, we are approaching 6 o'clock. We only have 4 minutes until we reach 6 o'clock. Commissioner Herron?
I'm sorry, are we missing one? Alvin? Malcolm?
Yeah, I haven't forgotten about them.
All right.
Thank you. We are getting close to 6 p.m. and we have 2 complaints remaining on the agenda. Those are complaints against Alvina Malcolm and Marie Tavermina. Because we are so close to 6 o'clock and we do need to have a discussion on the final item on our agenda, I do move that, or I would request that we table those 2 agenda items, those 2 complaints to the next meeting. And I want to check in with the board. Does everyone agree with tabling those 2 complaints to the next meeting? Commissioner Kidd?
I might hate myself for saying this, but will we have a quorum after 6? If not, let's table it. But, I want to know if we really can't complete these after 6 o'clock.
We do need to be respectful of everyone's time and especially staff who are joining us here at the meeting, ACDHH staff. And so it's been moved that we table those remaining complaints to the next meeting. Right, we will table those 2 complaints to the next meeting. And it looks like no one is in opposition, and it looks like no one is abstaining, as far as I know. Okay. So let's use our remaining time. Yes, Commissioner Herron?
I really hate to drag out the situation. It's not fair to people who are here, but I understand we have a limit until 6 p.m. I think we should meet as soon as possible, whether that means sooner but shorter periods of time, but hopefully we can find enough time, adequate time to complete these. That's only my thought.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why I wanted to have a discussion on the next item on our agenda. If you recall, Commissioner Scarborough made a motion some time back that the new complaints that come in go directly to the Interpreter Licensure Committee. That is the next item for us to discuss, revisit the Interpreter Licensure Complaint Committee process. And it was recommended that they then at least first view all of the complaints. And I know that we have been tabling this item for quite some time. We've been tabling complaints for some time, and we now have quite the backlog. So I would like to open the floor for discussion. We'll first start with Commissioner Goodstein. Excuse me, just one moment. I can't right now. Thank you. I apologize.
So I want to make sure that I understand correctly. So any complaint that is filed would be handled by the ILC. And then after the ILC made a decision, they would make a recommendation to the commission for approval. Is that what you're speaking of? Okay.
Yes. So all complaints would go directly to the ILC. And I see our AAG has turned her camera on. Go ahead, Elise.
Hi, so I just want to clarify because it sounds like with Commissioner Goodstein's question, there may be some concern. It wasn't just a motion that was made, it was passed. This was the decision and the new process. So I just want to clarify for anyone who may have questions similar to Commissioner Goodstein that this isn't like an open motion. This is what was set as the process going forward once this backlog was completed. So if you guys want to change that, it would have to be a whole nother motion. It's not a motion that was tabled, that was passed. So it would need to be completely redone. I just want to clarify because I think that Commissioner Goodstein question sounded like the issue might sound different than it is. I just wanted to clarify, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Elise. Yeah, you are absolutely correct. So a new motion would be required. So should we have that discussion now, or should we table this agenda item to the next meeting? It looks like we're probably going to have to schedule another special meeting. What we usually do in situations like this is we'll work with Kyla to determine everyone's availability. So we'll have to schedule this for another meeting. I'm open to staying, however, we're past 6 p.m.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. I think it would be a wise idea to schedule another special board meeting. And we may have lost quorum as someone logged off. Okay. Due to the fact that commissioners are logging off and we're going to no longer have quorum, looks like we're going to have to adjourn without a vote. What I will do is I will ensure that we get caught up with our backlog. To do that, I will work with Kyla to schedule another special session within 2 weeks' time. I will coordinate with Kyla. With that being said, thank you everyone for your time and patience. And we will adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye, everyone.